Welcome back to the channel. Sorry I haven't been around. It's just been on a little life journey. Soul searching. You know, all that good jazz. But I don't like leaving unfinished work. It's been a habit, a very bad habit, and I want to just get straight into it. This is part 2 of the character drawing. And I want to at least finish that. So let's try to get into it right away and try to kill it from where we left off. I think my mic is still on. Alright. So where I left off was here, and this part of the lesson is filling in the basic shapes to get our silhouette going, to start feeling out where everything should land. So as you can see, I went a little off of the sketch of the stickman lines, but that's pretty much the purpose, because you think of it like guides, and if you're drawing from your mind, you know, you're not sure where it's gonna be at, and that's why you do everything light, you know, especially if you're on pencil and paper, and you just want to get the general feel of your pose before the actual details are put in. So one of my viewers, we had a conversation off in Discord, and he was saying how he has trouble with the hands and the feet. So I figured I cover that in depth. As you can see, if you was following along, I kind of threw some shapes in there. You know, we got like our triangles for like the forearms and the calf area, and you could also like imagine some type of oval or circle in those same areas, if that helps. One thing to keep in mind is that we are drawing on a 2D canvas, but everything you draw, you want to try to look at it in a 3D type of perspective. Like I'll fill that in right here to give you an idea. So I'm gonna do a guideline for the front of the chest here, and like this is gonna be a little more popped out. Let me adjust some things. Maybe this will be back more, but I'm imagining a 3D form here. You know, I got the guide for the pelvis, but it still comes in essentially kind of like a box, or something close to a similar shape. A lot of people use other shapes in like the hip area, and this is a more complicated type of view. Like the legs are a little off in my original stickman sketch, but you want to try to imagine that, you know, the entire view is like in this type of direction. But depending on the stance, you're gonna end up, you know, still with a pretty wide footing. Excuse me. So you want to think of things as 3D, three-dimensional. I'm kind of working on two images here, but it gives you different perspectives, and I'm doing this on the fly, so it kind of makes it interesting. I like my challenges. Um, but when we look at like the hands and the feet, we want to think of them kind of like in a. It depends on the direction. So when you're looking at your any part of the body, which technically I wouldn't recommend learning how to draw right away from actual characters. I believe in my last video I explained this where it's a little bit more complex. But when you're looking at everything specifically, a lot of artists will tell you to, just draw a bunch of hands, you know, draw a bunch of different parts to see if you could get the hang of it. So like I'm gonna do a little something here. As you can see, I started off with like some type of shape, and it's not really exactly like a rectangle, but it's close. But it gives it more authenticity when you kind of imagine the way it's spread out, let's say. And then when you got the actual good feel, I'll zoom in. You can actually like throw in your guides to like where maybe everything is at, and it still ends up with those basic shapes. Like I got this weird claw looking thing going on, but it gives the hand more in action. And as you can see, just throwing this together, I got some type of good feel going for it. I want to change the direction. That's why you sketch. You do your really light lines, and you're just pretty much getting the direction. So now I got this hand that it looks like maybe it's like some type of power blast from a specific angle, or maybe the person is reaching out to grab something. It's coming off a little weird right here, but that's why you do your light sketches to uh, get the idea of the direction and how the flow of the image is gonna be. So like, I did this kind of backwards right here, but it makes a hell of a lot of sense right now. You know, uh, maybe, we could do like a power blast type of thing. And that kind of feels good. So I'll show you here, incorporate the same thing in a different hand angle. As you can see, I started off like this. I could imagine it as a 3D shape, something like so. And then pretty much work in all the other stuff. I wanted the fingers to kind of feel like extended the way I was imagining it. And this one I'm gonna cheat a bit, like I know some images you see some fingers look like they're kind of like glued together. And the purpose is not, it takes a lot of time to throw in all kinds of details unless you're that type of person. But when, especially like in comic art, you want to throw in good detail, but you're gonna come across scenarios where you gotta use eye tricks. It's kind of like a secret of the trade. If you could trick the eye, you can come up with some pretty cool looking stuff. Like, again, it's a little off from my Stickman original post, but it's there. Um, Also, when it came to the head, I don't know if you noticed, I threw everything into hemispheres. So, like just guides to show where, like there's this curvature by the eyebrow area that shows the side of the skull. Some people do like circles, and you end up with like a whole bunch of like cross patterns, but it's good guides. It tells you where your eyes are gonna land. Um, the nose is the eyes will probably be in the middle of the entire face structure, but it's more or less like above the eye line. The nose is in between the eye line and the jaw, the bottom of the where the chin is, and then the mouth, so on and so forth. If you follow the same rule, this line would give you the hairline, and usually it's just where the hairline falls, and then you end up with like crazy hair if you're doing manga anyways. um Feet, let's start with this one here. In the front view, it's usually some type of triangle to start, and I'm just going quick on this, but you get the general idea. And play around with that, because like right here I'm gonna do like a corner of a box to give like a feel of toes, and then maybe a smaller one, more rounded, to give you the idea of like some type of toes. And the foot is kind of flat looking, so try to be aware of that when it comes to proportions. Like this one's a little off, but I would probably like raise this up a bit, but then it looks kind of good as guide proportions. Another thing is that we got a bit of foreshortening going on here, which is kind of cool. So I could imagine my other shapes, um, and throw it together accordingly. So like, since the arm is up, it's twisting. And over here maybe I want to do something different with the hand. I'm imagining something kind of like turned forward a bit, and he's kind of like holding maybe like a orb, or I like the whole Dragon Ball Z thing, so some type of power orb, or maybe like a wizard with a flame. Let's do that. That's cool, right? And as you can see, like I used my basic shapes. I used triangles, squares, circles, just to basically flesh out things. And I would recommend taking anatomy, like looking at some anatomy type classes, because I can't stress enough how much value there is from drawing from life. And when you understand, how things are kind of put together, then you can actually play with it, and exaggerate it, like how manga style does. Um, but yeah, I don't want to keep this video too long, and it's gonna be kind of crazy to edit because, there was like noises in the background. There's a lot of things I didn't cover, like what I'm doing right now. But if you're actually like looking and following along, you're gonna end up with a similar type of structure. Like I'm imagining the hips and stuff. Like this would be wider, of course. Um, somebody caught me and was like, oh, a guy's hips are as wide as his shoulders, but then, like, I would imagine, that's more like females, because like a muscle guy is kind of slim in this area, and it depends. It really depends on you. I would say reference. Cool. If you know about Mortal Kombat, I'm imagining, Baraka with his claw that comes out from over here. If anybody didn't think of that yet, but I was not aiming for that. That just happened. This is a good spot here. I would like to move this to play with this a bit, but I don't know if you can see. That's why I'm trying to go a little darker than normal. This is how I would mess with the hand here. Like, I don't know. I was thinking open, but let's do like a closed fist. I got my triangle going on. And I'm just gonna like drop in a few hint lines, like literally hinting, and there we go. It's kind of that simple, but the only way it'd be hard is if you're overthinking it. It does take practice, and you'll end up getting it. Like, it's gonna be like a doy moment, or you had this epiphany, like, oh, that's how it works, and you pretty much go from there. Like, I'm probably gonna change this direction, but I hope this was helpful. One guy that I watch, he says that there's no right way to make a game. um and I'm really like, a person that's trying to learn how to draw. I feel like you when it comes to making games. So to close out, I'm not taking what he's saying, but I'm saying what he's saying is very true. And if you're watching, if you're trying to learn how to draw, use the same thought. I know you're gonna end up seeing this video, and I'm right back at you, dude. Use the same thought process, that you're gonna realize that there's no right way to actually draw, especially when you come across your style. There's a right way when you're learning, um when it comes to basic structure, and how to shape things out for your build. um Always stick with the basics. Make your mannequins, your stick men, and then do this, like, flesh them out. That'd be the right way for any drawing. You could be drawing an environment, and it's gonna be the same thing. There's that right way, but when it comes to the details after that, you kind of could play, and it becomes no real right way, as long as you can portray the image and have your own little pizzazz to it. But I don't want to make this any longer than what it is, and I hope that this was helpful. And if you have any questions, please let me know, and I would come again to the next lesson using the same image, um to go further along. And honestly, I'm gonna kind of work on this right here. I'm like, I feel this is probably something I struggle with, the whole view on this side, but I've learned ways to go around it. It's kind of like sculpting, and you just kind of, when you're in this stage right here, you're finding the shape. You got to think of it as a silhouette, and you gotta like find the shape. Like, I would probably turn this longer and point this out, so it'll be like out over here. um and just looking at it, it looks like it'll feel better, and this would be longer, of course. And I'll bring all of this down, but then it would defeat the purpose, because it's supposed to feel somewhat shorter. So, like, depending on your style, like I said, and that's why it's good to have guidelines, like it maybe like a floor. You know, it doesn't matter if it's not going into the vanishing point. We don't want to think about that yet. We just want to think, you know, like, all right, there's something here. He's standing on it. You know, I don't know what it is, but it's something there, and it gives you a guide. So, you know, this side of the tutorial is more understanding how to use what you know to your disposal, especially with the basics. And yeah, like I said, I hope it's helpful. And the next part, I'm gonna use the same image and I'm gonna go into the detail portion. You know, I'm gonna like draw fast pictures and it may look crappy, but the whole idea is that I was able to pull something off with minimum effort and minimum thought, and just trying to show off the basics. And then, you know, you take your time and you try to um, do what I was saying about the sculpting, and you know, like it just ends up with like a lot of rough lines, and if it becomes too much, you know, erase what you don't need so you can see it in a cleaner way. And this is still not your finished lines, you know, you're still sketching the pose, but now we have something more character looking. And then we could think about, you know, how the eyes are gonna look, you know, and the hair and clothes, what kind of accessories, you know. We already know what our character looks like in our mind, but we still gotta know how to do this. You know, how we're gonna pose our character, you know, and that's where it's really important. Um, so if you like, let me know, and sorry it took a while. Um, just, you know, life. But I would like to keep doing this because, you know, I got subscribers that expect me to do stuff, you know, and I want to at least, you know, show for them, you know, do this for myself, but, you know, I promised I was going to do this and I'm going to do it. Whatevs. Uh, yeah, long enough video. Thanks for stopping by. My name is Kai. Talk to you in the next one.